How can erotic, intuitive dance boost your confidence and self-love? I am fascinated by this question, and we are about to get the answer from a beautiful goddess named Anjua Maximo. Welcome, Anjua.
Thank you so much for having me, Elizabeth. I'm so excited.
I'm thrilled that you are here on the Goddess Power Show because you exemplify the mission of the show to help people, especially women, live bigger, better, and bolder. And by being a, yes, and by being a sensuous movement coach, which I can't wait to hear more about what that is, you help women awaken their true goddess power within. So, Anjua, can you talk to us about what does it mean to be a sensuous movement coach?
Absolutely. So, sensual movement literally could be a lot of different things, right? From belly dancing to heels class, erotic style dance. What I do is a style that I learned years ago from my mentor in Los Angeles. And it is a combination of erotic style dance mixed in with slow, sensual stretching movements. Okay. And the idea is it's not performative the way I teach it. It is to be fully immersed in the feelings that you have both in your emotions, like what you're experiencing, and also just what your body is actually feeling physically. So, sensual movement in my world is about being as tapped in to what you're feeling, what feels good on your body, what your hands feel like on your body, what the music is doing in your body, and not at all about what it looks like, about performing, about showing out. It's for you exclusively.
I love that because life, especially for women, seems to be all about performance, what we
Yes.
look like, how we're perceived. So tell us, how does that activate self-love if you're just doing it for yourself and not for anybody who may be watching?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you said it. So many of us feel the pressure to constantly perform, right? And what is on the other side of performance is the need for validation for the performance, right? So when we remove that, the pressure of performing, which means the pressure of meeting an expectation, possibly or disappointment, or looking for validation, when you remove that out of the way and you make it exclusively for yourself, you make it not about the performance, then you're going to remove that pressure to get validation from anyone. It's
Hmm.
strictly focusing on feeling. And yeah, you're going to feel awkward in the beginning sometimes, and you're going to feel maybe uncomfortable, and you're going to come up a lot of narratives in your head that you've been sold since you were a child, a lot of things that could block you from, religious beliefs that you were brought up with, to cultural beliefs, to societal beliefs, depending on where you maybe came up. And all these things, sometimes I joke, I'm not in there just with the goddesses that I'm teaching. I'm in there with like the priest and the rabbi and the minister and their grandparents and everybody who came in with all the
Wow.
ideals of what sexuality and sensuality is supposed to be. And I'm just trying to sort through the
Hmm.
noise and find what Elizabeth believes and what does Elizabeth,
Yes.
what does she want
Yes.
to exemplify in her movement.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So, Anjua, what I want to exemplify is that when we awaken that sexual energy within ourselves, and I
Mhm.
write about this on my website, thegoddesspowershow.com, where I explain the mission. When we activate courageously that energy within ourselves, our sexuality, we can step out into the world as the boldest bosses, bitches, badasses, goddesses. Do you agree?
Absolutely. 100%, 100%. Listen, the minute you start introducing people to the fact that they get to decide what feels good, right? So if you want to think about our first sensual encounters, sexual encounters, I don't know many women or people in general who were ever taught to say, well, tap into what you're going to feel like, what's going to feel good to you. It's about, even from the beginning, what have we seen in TV that indicates we should be feeling good in this moment? So I'm going to throw my head back and I'm going to arch and I'm going to maybe coo and ooh because this is what I see people doing in movies. But meanwhile, you're like, that actually doesn't feel very good, but I'm going to act like it does, right? So the minute we remove again, having to appease others, but you're
Yes.
simply finding out for yourself what feels good to you, how is that not empowering? Because suddenly you're like, what I hear women say back to me, it's like a mix of shock that they didn't know all this time that they could make themselves feel good, and a mix of anger that they didn't know all this time that they could make themselves feel this way, right? So there's all these things happening, but in that, it's just this, it's mine. That's what they ultimately
Wow.
start to realize. This is mine and it's been taken, or it's been sold to me that it wasn't, or that it should be under someone else's control. No, this is mine. And that, I think, is what you're speaking to, is that power, that sense of like ownership of self. And
Yes.
yeah, dancing slow and sexy somehow really does start that fire.
Oh, I have chills from head to toe.
Mm.
So, Anjua, as a coach working with people privately, individually, as well as in groups, classes, and your upcoming retreat in Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
it must be amazing for you to watch women sort of awaken into this energy. What's that like?
Elizabeth, let me tell you, it never gets old. It is every time I'm like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. It's like, I'm tired. I've been doing it too long. And then I get into a class and I see it. I see the moment the light bulb goes off. I see the moment she just sinks into her body, or she arches, and it's like a true, authentic, like, fuck, yes, I'm hot. Like you can see that in her face.
Yes.
It's exciting. It is so exciting, and it never ever gets old. And I can remember students' dances from 16 years ago, moments that brought me to tears, moments that had me screaming and like banging on the walls because of these breakthroughs I was watching. Women who literally would come into my class like concave, shoulders rounded, fearful of their body, and suddenly they're just strutting across the floor like and Beyonce on her best day. And it's just like, you're screaming. You can't, we all scream. We go crazy because you're just like, yes, that will never, ever, ever get old. There's like no price you can put on how beautiful that moment is to see these women so fully in their bodies.
Wow, that is amazing. Oh, I still have chills. That's incredible. So, how long have you been doing this?
Oh my gosh. I got certified back in 2006 from the S Factor. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Sheila Kelly began the S Factor back in the, I know, early 2000s. She was probably the first one, I would say, who took sensual erotic movement and made it very mainstream, right? So she took pole dancing and just kind of made it very mainstream. And how she did that was she got to go on Oprah. And you know, if Oprah sanctions something, must be okay. So she got on Oprah, and her studio kind of exploded after that because she was doing something very different. It wasn't just pole dancing, it wasn't just erotic movement. There were these breakthroughs happening. These women were finding this transformation. So in 2006, I became trained by her, and then I became one of her lead instructors. And I moved away, started my own thing. So I would say, gosh, over 16 years altogether. Life
Wow.
coaching came in later. That
Uh-huh.
was more like 8 years ago that I began the life coaching aspect to it,
Hmm.
to enhance the sensual movement part.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've been doing this for a very, very long time.
That's amazing. So, Anjua, can you please share your personal trajectory, your evolution on how you discovered this, how it's changed you personally, and how it's
Mm,
helped you blossom into the goddess that you are today?
absolutely. So when I first found S Factor, I was, you know, just an actor in LA, and I was training, like, you know, with my trainer. You know, this is what you do. You bartend and you train and you work in a restaurant. And my trainer one night's like, you know, there's this cool class. It's like a pole dancing class I went to, and you should check it out. I literally don't like regular physical fitness, but I do love strip clubs. So I was like, yeah, I absolutely will go check it out. I was a newlywed at the time, so I'm thinking in my head, this will be really fun to bring home. And the first, you know, all I can say is my first experience with this, it quickly became about me. And suddenly I didn't want to share anything because I was just like, oh, this feels so good for it to just be for me. It's mine. And like every week I'd meet these women in class, same group of women, and you became like this community. And it was like, you couldn't wait to get to the class, to cheer each other on, to scream, to again see these transformations. And I'm like, I have to teach this. Like, I have to, this is what I want to do. I want to learn how to help women feel this way. And so I went like I only got to level two. There were 6 levels of this particular studio, and I got to level two and went to audition. And like I said, they took me into training. It was very rigorous, but in my trajectory as a student and then as a teacher, again, it was the idea of self-possession that I think was most impactful to me, and not realizing at the time that I was missing that. Okay, so I'm thinking I'm confident. I like being sensual and sexy. Like that's not a big deal to me. But no, this was different. This was again, it wasn't about, oh, someone was going to perform. This was about, Anjua, you're going to be very real here. You're just going to be very open and raw. And you may even cry in this class, and you may even rage in this class. And all of it is going to be perceived as sensual and beautiful and powerful. And everyone's going to accept all of it. And this is what the experience was. And again, it's the permission you get from that.
Mm.
Right. And in that permission, you start to find out more about yourself in those dances, more about
Mm.
what lights you up, what
Mhm.
turns you off. You
Mhm.
find your voice because you're moving energy in your body, Elizabeth. No matter what, you can call it whatever kind of class you want. When someone is telling you to spiral through your chest, spiral through your hips, you're going to unlock, you're going to shift energy that gets stuck in these parts of our body. Okay.
Mm.
And what was unlocking was opening up not just the sense of who I was, the sense of my own, like security to know who I was, but it was also to open my mouth and to speak my truth. And that was the beginning of it. I'm not going to say like right away I was super vocal, but it began the first time of me really seeing you are not living your full truth. You are
Ooh.
being quiet. You are holding things in. And that reveal began because of this dance.
Wow. So
Yeah.
it releases stuck energy
Oh,
that
yeah.
represses us. And can you give us a few basics of what sensuous movement is, please?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in my class, we move very slowly. Okay. So I may tell you, Elizabeth, we're going to stand in our strong stance. And that means that you're going to take up space. So I want your legs open wide, right? And I'm going to tell you to sink down into your knees. And we're going to move our hips in a big circle. And when I say big, I don't mean like small. I mean like your body's talking, so let her shout, right? So you're going to hear me cue you like that. So I want your ass to stretch clear across the room. Like I'm going to say these types of things to you to encourage you to literally take up as much space as possible. Because again, we're so used to, many of us, walking into spaces and finding a corner, finding the pillar to stand behind, finding a group of friends right away, going to the buffet table, just finding, instead of just walking in and just being. So this movement, just a slow hip circle, standing there in your power and not doing anything other than that, is just the introduction. These are basic movements. They're so simple. And you're really, how can something so simple be so impactful? I don't know. But something about giving women permission to stand there and swing her hips all over the place, to walk in with her breasts 10 minutes in the room before she got there because she's standing up so straight and proud. There's something about that that just lights people up, because you got to think we're probably muting our bodies half the time, whether it's to stop getting the attention that maybe we don't want,
Mhm.
okay? The unwanted attention that will come at us, whether it's because we were told, stop switching your hips, close your legs, tuck everything under. You don't want other people looking at you. You don't want to cause a reaction, right? So we're being shamed for just being in our bodies. All of this starts muting you. And what I say, it's muting the natural music in your body, not the music I'm playing for you, just the music, because many of us are born with your hips just swinging naturally. That's just the way we move. We bounce a little,
Mhm.
we got a little jiggle,
Uh-huh.
and there's nothing wrong with that, but we want to like break it down and shut it up and squeeze it. And I'm like, shake that shit out. Like let everything jiggle and shake. If you got it, and if you stick thin, because I can go between a buck 05 and then a little heavier, and like, even I used to say when I'm like mad skinny, because that was my story, is I felt so thin my whole life. I was never comfortable in my body fully. That was the other thing. This was the first time that I said, okay, it's all right to have these long, skinny ass arms. And it's okay for my legs, to have cellulite on them. And it's okay for me to have the varicose veins. Like this class made all of that okay. This kind of
Wow.
movement made me really appreciate it. And again, it's so layered, but all these things are happening in the simplest of a hip circle. That's it.
Wow.
Going
Okay.
back to the hip circle, right? Yeah.
The hip circle. I love it. I
Mhm.
want to take your class. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yes.
So tell me a moment that you awakened this energy and then outside of class, you
Mhm.
realized, wow, I'm powerful. I'm different. I've changed.
Mm, this is big. Um, so I got a critique when you dance, the way I was taught, we would someone's watching your dance, usually the teacher, and she's going to give you the reflection of what she's seeing in your dance. Okay. So we call it body whispering. And we're taught to, this was back in the days, to read a person's body based on how the music's affecting them, based on how we're seeing them open or close in certain areas of their body, but also how to speak to them to encourage them to go further. Okay. And after one of my dances, my mentor came back with, "You're drowning. You're drowning." She's like, "I know there's a tarot of some sort that I've seen called the Drowned Man." And she's like, "And that's all that I keep seeing is like you are weighed down by something." And at the time, I was really struggling um, in my marriage. I was struggling, feeling very alone, feeling like, I had this wonderful husband who was a really great guy, who was kind, who was hardworking and ambitious, a great provider, but we were struggling to connect in more intimate communication. And something that, as I was learning more about myself, I realized I was craving. And I literally, she said that to me, and it was like, when something like, I don't know if you go to mediums or psychics, but they'll say something to you, and you're just like, "Oh, shit." You know what I mean? I'm like, how did
Yes.
she see that? I'm like, oh, this is her job to see these types of things.
Yeah.
And so, it hit home that I needed to, there was something going on here. There was something, I wasn't happy, and it was visible.
Mm.
I was feeling weighed down, and it was visible.
Hmm.
Um, and so that critique, I would say, really started to bring my attention to, what I was missing, what I was feeling I needed more of, you know. And even though I couldn't totally pinpoint it at the time, it was the catalyst for what was to come. And it still wasn't years and years and years and years till years later,
Hmm.
that I got to the point of what you saw the other day in the video,
Yes.
where big changes started to happen. But in that whole span of time from that critique to the moment that you saw in the video was me trying to figure it out, trying to make it work, trying to grow myself and, let the other person do what they have to do. And all of that, was my efforts. But the dance was always the thing that was the saving grace. The dance was the thing that helped me feel stronger. The dance was the thing that helped me cry when I wasn't feeling strong. It gave me a place to be vulnerable. And, the movement was the source of a lot of that, both the catalyst and the cradle, so to speak, to hold me in.
Ooh, wow, 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 wow. So everybody, please go to Anjua's Instagram and look at the video that she did. It's the whole evolution of self that she's talking about, and it was so beautifully done and so touching and so courageous. So, do you want to talk about the evolution that you've experienced and you've had such tremendous um, courage to just
Yeah,
change, announce, shift?
sure.
And just evolve. And that, you know what, when you do that, it gives other women courage to do that. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to hear your story on that.
So, I have to say, one of the first things I think that comes to mind when you are in a situation, a relationship where everything appears good, where it does actually look great, you will talk yourself out of what you're feeling,
Been there,
right?
done that too many
Because yeah,
times.
because if what do we usually want to say when someone wants to walk away from something? Well, it must be because something really tragic happened, right? Or there must have been a betrayal. Nope. Maybe there was some kind of drugs, alcoholism. Nope. Physical assault, abuse. Nope. Okay. So, and it seems to be that those, for many people, are the only justifiable reasons to walk away from a relationship or a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But to say, well, I am just not happy, or I feel like I've grown in a completely different direction, or I feel like, I really am no longer aligned with this person on a very major level. Like, still have love for this person. Yes, of course, we share children together. We share 20 plus years of a relationship together, but also to recognize that this was needing to change and it wasn't working the way it was. And what I found was the choices were to walk away or to stay and completely mute my feelings, my desires, my needs, so that everybody else stays intact, right? So this is where the idea of the villain comes in, right? And where you will feel like a villain in your own story sometimes, because if you can't find a justifiable reason to what society says is a good reason to leave your marriage, then you must be the villain.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying this is 100% everybody's experience, but it definitely was mine. So if you resonate with this, if you felt that way before, that no one gets it, so you must be the villain. I want you to remember that in every story, the villain has an origin story. And generally, the origin story will start with the villain being unhappy or something happened to create. Right now, in the movies, they always go off to do harm, right? As their sense
Yes.
of revenge to
Yeah.
justification. We don't need to do that, though. But it's just the idea that remember that people don't know what your origin story is, right? They don't
Mm.
know what began the move to change things, to shift things. So, and it's okay, they don't have to. So you're going to get judged. You're going to get, as my one friend said, they're going to talk about you anyway. They already are. They've been talking about you. So just tell your story. Don't
Wow.
worry about what people are going to think and say. Yeah, and this is all part of it. So as you're in this space of recognition of this isn't working anymore, I have to make moves, then comes the, okay, now let's get the courage to actually make the move, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's not easy. It's not easy. It was a very difficult thing to do, because again, this is a good person and the
Mm.
children, and you're thinking about your kids and you're thinking about your family, and then it really wasn't so much what everybody's going to say. It was just more about how are they all going to do with this, how are they going to do with this. And I gotta say that what my courage came from were my parents divorced when I was pretty much born, and they had a very acrimonious couple of years together as a couple. um, and they found their way to forgiveness because they said I was the focal point. And they knew that in order for me to have a healthy life, I needed to see two healthy parents interacting with each other and co-parenting well. So they made a pact to do this. And my father was very much, even when he moved away when I was 5 to DC, was the most present dad you could imagine for someone
Mm-hmm.
who wasn't technically in the house. Okay. So he made that his business to show up for everything, flew in for recitals, to everything. Okay. My mother made it her business to welcome my father into her space with his girlfriends, with his new wife. It didn't matter. She would invite these women in, she'd hug them, she'd feed them because they're now family. Okay. Every Christmas, my mother threw a huge party, and my dad showed up every Christmas.
Wow.
Wouldn't miss it for anything. Even when he got remarried, he'd have to be like, well, you can go to your parents. I'm going to New York because my kid is there. And that's the Christmas party I go to.
Mm-hmm.
And they became to me the blueprint for what I thought was possible. So
Wow.
my motivation became, how do I take what is a very painful situation and let everybody go through the process that they're going to go through, because it's not going to be easy, feel
Mm-hmm.
what they have to feel, but then direct them to this idea that we can actually reimagine what divorce has to look like. It doesn't have to be acrimonious. We can reimagine what co-parenting has to look like. It doesn't have to be, full of tension and disagreements and, uncomfortable moments. Like, we can even cohabitate as we are right now, as we're working through these things. It doesn't have to be what we keep seeing in the movies or what we've seen other people do. We can make it anything we want. And
Mm-hmm.
that really became like the motivation for me and the
Mm-hmm.
courage to know that this could be okay because my parents made it okay. I grew up great. I never felt not loved.
Uh-huh.
I never
Uh-huh.
felt like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like perfect, but they did a great job of
Mm-hmm.
showing me what expanded family could look like.
Beautiful. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay. So you followed their excellent example
Hmm.
and you
Hmm.
divorced.
Not yet. We are
Oh,
in, we're in our, we're like going through our dissolution. Yeah, we're going through our moments. So, um, as we're working through these things, it was just an agreement to not rush. As someone directed me, this was really beautiful. You don't have to rush through the process, like take your time. There's lots of different layers to undoing this. Um, and when you rush through the process in a relationship, it's like you're rushing out and not shutting all the windows and the doors before you leave the house. And
oh
when you don't
my
shut all the windows and the
gosh.
doors properly, then you're just going to have to come back and redo it again, or deal with the aftermath of having left things unchecked, opened, unfinished. So take your
W-
time, close the doors, shut the windows. Yeah.
Wow, that's so profound. So I love that you called it a dissolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
So, I mean, I think it's the same as a divorce ultimately, but the way I'm understanding it, like legally, is it's not, divorce is something where there's technically more issues or things that, you know, litigious things that have to be settled. And he and
Mm-hmm.
I are very much in a good place of understanding that we are wanting to support each other, that we are trying to, you know, make our best efforts to assure that we are good as individuals and also as this co-parenting unit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in order to do that, you know, the dissolution felt like a more, it just felt more, I don't know what's the word I'm trying to find. Like the other one didn't
Harmonious?
seem, yeah, exactly. Thank you. It was a more harmonious decision than needing to do a divorce situation. I mean, they're both going to end up with us, you know, no longer married legally, but like I said, I think even in the word itself, it just feels more harmonious and akin to what we're kind of going for
Mm-hmm.
as a co-parenting team. Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. I had a nightmare divorce that
Really.
lasted 16 years of
Oh my
verbal
gosh.
abuse, and I had 4 restraining orders. It was a freaking nightmare. And it was in
Wow.
the midst of the worst times that the goddess mission came to me because this energy awakened in me and it came from spirit and it changed me. So now my mission is to help awaken it in other women because
Mm,
I made it through with peace and harmony, and then he almost died, and I helped him. I saved his life. So now he thinks I'm
wow.
an angel, and everything's harmonious. And the beneficiary of it all is our son, who's grown now, but still. So I share my story because it helps women see that you can make it through with peace and power. You don't have to get addicted to drugs and become an alcoholic or a spending addict or whatever. You can get through it with spirituality and self-love and hopefully your class.
Yes,
And
yes.
because you had your outlet, I had mine, and it works. And
Yeah.
so I'm so grateful that you're sharing your story the way you do. It's so beautiful and graceful, to let other women know there's a better way. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be, like you said,
Well, I
acrimonious and all
mean,
that.
you tell me because, you know, when you've got a situation as you were dealing with, like you can't control the other person and how they're going to react, right? So all you
Oh,
can do is you,
right. Exactly.
right?
Yes.
So you can either, you know, from my coaching world, we can match the energy that's being given us, which is going to just lead to more explosions, right?
Terrible. Awful.
Right? Or we can find a way that we work with the energy that's being presented without getting pulled in or under with it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Ooh,
Um,
beautifully said.
yeah, yeah. It's like, okay, you go and spin out over there. I'm gonna stay in my spiritual space. I'm going to stay in my bright light. I'm going, and it's not saying like you're love and lighting it away. You're dealing with some heavy shit. It's scary from what I'm hearing. And it's beautiful that you were able to not get sucked into that though.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. Nope. It was prayer, meditation, journaling, fitness, eating healthy, faith,
Yeah.
and got through it. It was hell.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I resonate so deeply with you. And I didn't even know you were going to share this tonight, but it's
Yeah,
the more you can share that with women, even if they're still married or if they're not married yet, just to help them understand there's a better way. And the
absolutely.
more you awaken that power in yourself, the more um, immune you can be to reacting.
Yeah.
And like when Michelle Obama says, when they go low, we go high.
Yes. No, exactly. Exactly. I love that. You do not have to match the energy. And it's difficult because you're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
wanna just go the fuck off, but woo, like, no.
right.
In my coaching world, we have like a thing where I teach my clients like levels of energy, and the higher levels of energy is where we kind of try to want to be at. And it's not possible to be there all the time. But when we have to go into the lower levels of energy, like do so intentionally, do so because you have to, do so because you need to defend yourself truly, do so
Hmm.
because you're going to intentionally use that energy to stop this person from verbally abusing you, trying to step over you, but
Hmm.
knowing that you can do so in a way that is not going to be destructive to you,
Hmm. Hmm.
that is still done with love, but just
Yes.
I love that. It's a do no harm, but we're not going to take any shit either, right? So
Hmm.
finding the balance in that. But what we
Hmm.
don't ever want to do is try to really match when we get into that space. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
So
powerful. That's
Anjua,
awesome.
you realized that you were unhappy, something was missing, you were not
Yeah.
fulfilled. And so when we do a dissolution or we
Mhm.
remove ourselves from a situation, we're free to go
Yeah.
explore and discover what is going to fulfill us.
Right.
So what has fulfilled you? What are you discovering?
So, what I discovered and this was actually not a new discovery, it was a very repressed discovery, was that I was bisexual and really had completely muted this aspect of who I was.
Mm,
And I knew it from early on. I had convinced myself that it was a phase, that it was just that one hot stripper in Vegas, that that it was that random crush. It wasn't a thing. And it never went away though. It never went away. And the thing is like it was a culmination of all these things. Like, and I love it when God, the universe, divine just hands it to you. It's seemingly all at once, or it's just like this eruption of everything. So it's like, okay, you're going to find your voice and you're going to speak your truth and you're going to finally make a bold move to, walk away from a relationship that isn't fulfilling you the same way that you need. Oh, and by the way, we're also going to unlock this other aspect of you while we're at it and just really make it so like in your face that you can't ignore it. And that's my friend, one of my best friends said, she's like, can you leave this world without knowing? I'm like, no, it's too important an aspect of who I am. And I feel that like, no, I have to know. And so I did. And I know what we're calling him, my co-parent, soon to be, and I hate saying ex-spouse. I feel like that's so negative, but my former partner, like, was very supportive, understood, um, has really been incredible in creating the space for me to explore this, to understand this aspect of myself. Even
wow.
as we're still, dissolving, our current situation and in our, in our cohabitating situation has really been just this beautiful support in that
Hmm.
journey, as far as like giving me space to really explore that and understanding, that it is there and it's a part of me. And again,
Wow.
it's one of those things where, people are like, well, they're going to come in with their judgments on how you do it. And, And you have to just follow what feels good between you and the other person, what
Mm-hmm.
makes the most sense between you and the other person. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, he's been a great support. And so I had this amazing woman walk into my life. And she really has been just extraordinary. And it was something that, I've kept quiet for a long time because I think also it's really important when you're on social media and, you have a following of any size, really, that you take your time, at least from my own experience, the invitation, it's always an invitation. I can't tell people what to do ever. Like, you're going to do what's right for you. But the invitation is to take our time to experience what we need to experience for ourselves before we decide we have to run out and share it.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
know not every content creator is going to want to do it that way. Some of them are in the moment and this is what's happening. And I got it, like, do your thing. But for me, it just felt important to keep it mine again, to really be in it, to work through our thing, he and I, and to allow my, current relationship to grow without the scrutiny,
Mm.
without the prying eyes, without the energy of, thousands of people like poking around and prying. And the point that it got to was just the other day, what you saw was me finally being able to share publicly what felt right and what had been happening for the last 2 years. This is like over 2 years in the making, honestly.
Oh.
So people are like, they feel surprised when they see it. They're like, I didn't know. And I'm like, well, no, I mean, I wasn't running around town telling people because I'm working this on my own. I love when
Uh-huh.
people like, I didn't know. I'm like, why would you? And they barely know you. It's so strange when people say that. But I
Wow.
know people think they know you, and I get it. But it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Like, do your thing, move quietly until you're ready to share. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I shared was exactly what you said, because I do believe that there is something that people can gain from learning, from watching, from trying to understand, how
Mm-hmm.
you're moving and what you're doing. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Okay. Now, please share your Instagram handle as well as your
Yes.
TikTok.
Okay, so I am Mama Goddess Queen Woman on Instagram. TikTok is the same, Mama Goddess Queen Woman. Beware, there are multiple copycats out there. So just make sure the spelling is correct. It says exactly Mama Goddess Queen Woman. There aren't extra S's or weird things happening. But yes, do be aware of that. Unfortunately, it's one of the things that happens, I guess. My friends are like, you've arrived. I'm like, I would rather not. But okay, so it's like this, is that the signal of that?
Wow.
And yeah, so Instagram, TikTok, what else?
Well, please tell us maybe a website, but where can people, if they want to
Yeah,
work with you or learn more about your private and group coaching and your retreat?
absolutely. You can head to my website, which is www.anjuamaximo.com. That will tell you where the upcoming Puerto Rico retreat is, which I do have one spot left. I would love to fill with another goddess ready to
Yes.
move her sensuality on the beaches, on the rooftop of this beautiful space.
Oh
I'm
my
super
gosh.
excited about this. Yeah, I mean,
Excellent.
I have roots from the island. My mom's people are from there. So I'm just like, of all the places to begin this retreat, like, I'm freaking thrilled to go back to Puerto Rico for this. So that's happening in April. Everything is on my website, but you can also go to my links in my bio of either Instagram or TikTok, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
see where I have my goddess community class that happens every month. It's a virtual class. You can take that with the group. You don't have to have any experience. Remember, my class is not a typical dance class, so we're not doing 5, 6, 7, 8. You don't have to have rhythm, musicality, none of that. Like, just come to
Okay.
class and we'll move. And if you want to work with me individually, I do have spots opening up in April and May. And again, just reach out at info@anjuamaximo.com. You can email me directly as well what your needs are, and then we'll get you set up.
Oh, beautiful. Do you have any in-person classes where you live?
So I do not have them currently. I do most of my classes virtually. I do
Okay.
plan on hosting more events in different cities. So I was in Brooklyn, New York last weekend for something
Mhm.
that I'm doing called Erotic Absolution. And this was a sensual movement workshop where the invitation is to wear lingerie or anything that really feels like you're kind of pushing the envelope for yourself, within what you feel comfortable. So I had some women in, they were in lace catsuits, some just came in straight bra
Oh,
panties, some in
yes.
booty shorts, it's just like, okay. And then, you could see they were nervous. Like, oh my God, I'm naked. I'm like, you're not, you're fine. Do your thing. And it was really all dependent on your comfort level. So I want women to also understand, like, if you're like, that scares the shit out of me, but I want to go, come. You can
I
still
love it.
come. Like, you don't have to, right? And I also want to remind people when they come to my classes, they can wear whatever they want. So the invitation is always to go as far as you want. If you want to wear, crazy stripper shoes and the whole thing, go for garters. And if you want to be fully covered, sensual movement can happen fully covered as well. You can feel sensual covered head to toe. You don't have to always have your skin out. And if you really are dying to have your ass out, come to my class and that will also be welcome. So yes, fully covered ass out, do your thing, like whatever, whatever you want to do. It
I
is your
love that.
playground.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's so fun. There is
Yes.
something so liberating about things like that. And I'm so excited to get to know you because you are doing some magic to help people. This is
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're
And like I said, I love it. I'll do it as long as I can keep rolling around on that floor. I will do it. I do it.
And the women get to wear like you're always in your flowy skirts and it just looks so beautiful.
Sometimes, and then sometimes I'm like in my joggers, I like to dance in my sweatpants, my baseball caps, that'll bring out a different energy in me. We love using clothing because clothing is going to inspire and awaken your inner goddess and her personality. And,
Mm.
you may find she's a little dom and maybe she likes to wear some kind of like, clothing that, indicates that, or maybe she's a bit more submissive and whatever that might look like, or there's all kinds. Maybe she's just straight freaky. I mean, all kinds of things. You just get the permission to do it. I love. You don't have no idea. Like I had a woman who used to wear her hair. It was always perfectly coiffed and up. And one day I'm like, what if you just took it down? It'll get messy. I'm like, what if it did? Let's just see. And like the next class, shit was wild. And it was so good to see her just like fucking out of sorts and like unraveled. And I'm like, yes, woman, this is what I'm talking
Ooh.
about. And she
I
was like, I feel so good. I feel so alive. I'm like, yes,
Oh, that's
yes.
amazing.
Because I
Well,
mean, it's just that one little move. Yeah.
uh-huh, uh-huh. Well, I am going to be in one of your classes someday. I'm so delighted, Anjua, to meet you, to have you as a guest here on the Goddess Power Show because you truly are a guest making wonderful things happen for women everywhere.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I am so grateful to be on the show and to have the opportunity to share my story. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Oh my goodness. And I will put all your links and information here so that people can click on and hopefully you're going to fill that one spot in your retreat in Puerto
Yes.
Rico in April.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Please come dance with me on the beach. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds divine. Oh my goodness. Well, Anjua, I wish you the absolute best. Thank you for explaining to all of us how we can boost our self-love and self-confidence with erotic, intuitive dance. Fascinating topic. You are such a beautiful woman inside and out, and I am immensely grateful that you shared your wisdom here tonight.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And all of you, please share this with somebody, a woman who could use this wisdom, this guidance, this inspiration to help her live bigger, better, and bolder. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins of the Goddess Power Show, and that's my mission, just like Anjua, to help women explore their sensuality, their sexuality, their power, to find that peace and courage to live their best life. So go for it, Goddess, because you have the power.